on the surface, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid, silly show, but there is so much philosophy in it and so much wisdom about life. As we dug a little bit deeper, we found out that this show really failed as hard as a show could ever possibly fail. I mean, it was on one of the biggest networks in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and it bombed.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Plants Dreamland, the podcast. Our guest today is going to shine some light on some of the mystery surrounding this show. Friends out there, let's welcome the critically acclaimed podcast producer, Eric Westhouse. Hi, Eric.
Hey.
Thanks for being a guest.
Oh, yeah.
So, first off, tell us who you are and how you're connected to this show.
Yeah, hey, my name is Eric Westhouse, and I'm the producer of this podcast. And me and my partner are the ones who came up with the idea, pitched it to the network, and got the show running.
Eric, will you tell us the story of how you came to find this mysterious TV show, Plants Dreamland?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I've been making podcasts for the last 8 or 9 years, I guess, at this point. I've been making them ever since college. You know, the two of us have been involved in 2 pretty major podcasts now. In 2020, we put out Things We Forget, which was a journey into how humans store and also forget memories, you know, things that are very dear to them. Inspired by, obviously, my dear friend's mother had Alzheimer's. It inspired a podcast that we made about, not necessarily about her, but inspired by her story. And then, that really sparked kind of the career in podcasting. We then went on in 2024 to put out Exploring Nowhere, which was an exploration into the geography of the American suburb by telling stories, or exploring the stories of people who obviously like live in them, created them, were replaced by the suburbs. It was actually one of the bigger podcasts of 2024. We won a Poddy Award for that one. And it's just been so fun. Like, things have just kind of fallen into place. Like, we've made a podcast, and then the next one has just kind of come to us. And so how we found Plants Dreamland was, again, another kind of stroke of luck of just following, I guess, the breadcrumbs that life was giving us, or the podcast world was giving us, the podcast gods even, maybe you could say. So we were offered an internship at the network last summer, I guess in 2025. And to be honest, it was, to take an internship at this point in our career, or at least I won't speak for you, but in my career, was a little bit beneath me. However, we're talking about the network that was so influential to me as a kid, like growing up, watching something like the Billy Watership show, like blew my mind when I was a teenager. Or, they were responsible for Do Penguins Cry? Like, I remember staying up till 1 a.m. just to watch that on Friday nights. It was mind-blowing. Like it opened so many doorways into other parts of the world that I didn't know about growing up in, a tiny suburb in Pennsylvania. So when the network offered us the internship, it was kind of a no-brainer, even though it felt a bit beneath me to be an intern again. It felt like the opportunity that we had to take. So we worked all summer for the network, and one of the jobs they got us to do was to clean out the basement. Like, they had boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of just, not only paperwork, but like memorabilia, like anything you could think of that was connected to the network was in there. And it was kind of like a rat's nest. Like, there was just so much stuff. And so, we just started sorting through it. And pretty much on our first day, we found in this one box we found all of this Plants Dreamland stuff. And it was a show that neither of us had ever heard of. When we found these burnt DVDs, like tucked under the bottom. There was a pair of Mr. Plant's glasses was in there. Some of the letters that they used for on the set, like that said Plants Dreamland. There were some costumes. We found like the Grabby the sock puppet. And I mean, when we found that box, it was really like, what is this? This is, I mean, how did first of all, how did we ever not know? How did we not know about this show? So I mean, in 2025, it's hard to track down a DVD player, but we found one somewhere in the building. And on lunch hour, we watched all 4 of those episodes. We found the pilot and episode 4, 5, and 8 on DVDs. We watched every single one of them on that lunch hour.
The little flobbers have asked me to tell you that you may purchase this painting and many of my other paintings in our online store. When you buy my paintings, it helps me live a little longer on planet Earth because I am not fit for regular human employment here. It helps me buy paint so I can make more beautiful paintings. And it helps me buy foods. It stops me from having to eat small humans and animals, which I understand is very bad and not acceptable behavior from me.
The whole time we were just like, what are you doing? What? We're laughing hysterically at just like the stupidest show that was also somehow so smart. And I mean, it really, in a similar way to like how the Billy Watership show blew my mind when I was a teenager, this blew my mind as an adult. Like, I mean, I'm a 26-year-old man and I felt like I was a teenager again watching this show. It just was like mind-blowing. And that really started the ball rolling for what is here now to make our next podcast.
What is it about Plants Dreamland that appeals to you so much?
I would say that there's something about, I guess, like the essence of it that is appealing to me. There's something in it that is hard to put your finger on. It's touching on something deeper in life, but doing it in a way like the way that I think about Plants Dreamland is it's some medicine, like a pill that is surrounded by a thick coating of sugar. And so you swallow it down and all you taste is the sugar, but eventually you swallow the pill. And, I would say that it will like open your world up. I also really like, just because it's on the surface, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid, silly show, but there is so much philosophy in it and so much wisdom about life in it that I personally found really, really, I guess, interesting would be the only, just fascinating, a fascinating show. But not only that, I mean, the fact that it was made by, question mark, this masked artist maybe, or some aliens, it's so confusing.
There's all that nourishing content streaming to do. All of those videos and pictures on the internet aren't just gonna watch themselves.
Don't be so sure of yourself, Grabby. Yeah, Grabby. Some of us pictures love looking at ourselves.
We do it all day long. That's a funny joke. All of these paintings are for sale in our online store. The link is in the description of this video. Legally, we have to tell you that these paintings do not talk. Thank you.
I swear this show is actually made by a human artist, not aliens. And just like the aliens, the human artist is trying to make a living to exist on planet Earth. So if you can afford to, please, please buy a painting. That would really help this human artist. Thank you so much.
Who said that? I'm scared. I thought the show was made by aliens.
Yes, we should wrap this episode up, Mr. Grabby. And then, as we dug a little bit deeper, we found out that this show really failed as hard as a show could ever possibly fail. I mean, it was on one of the biggest networks in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and it bombed. I think it only showed 3 or 4 episodes of that first season, which is basically unheard of. Like, when a network goes through with a show, they paid for that whole first season to be created. They just abandoned ship as soon as it started to air. I mean, the numbers were so low that they just couldn't see any point in carrying on. So, I mean, the fact that the show tanked so hard and that basically no one wants to take ownership for it. Like, we've reached out to so many people and almost no one wants to, first of all, even return our calls, but then to even say that they were a part of the show. So, I mean, there's so many parts of this thing that are so fascinating to me and so worthy of making a podcast. So that's why I'm fascinated by it.
So, if it's true that this TV show was such a failure, why are you making a podcast about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because, like, it does seem like people's careers were tanked by this show. And so, yeah, there has been kind of the question of, you know, are we going to tank our careers? Like, you know, we're doing fairly well in the podcast world. Like, do we want to tank ourselves because, like, maybe this show is cursed? We don't know. But it's a risk that personally I'm willing to take just because, you know, I think that it's a story that needs to be told, you know, and it just seems like destiny for us to tell it. Like, if we hadn't found those DVDs in the basement, perhaps they would have been thrown out and perhaps no one would ever know about this show. I mean, I think the likelihood, it's pretty likely that no one would have ever found out about this show. And so it just seems like destiny that we would be the ones to tell this story, or at least try to uncover this story. And I would say that personally, I find I almost identify as like an archaeologist when it comes to telling stories or podcasting. I see this ground, and I know that inside of the ground is all of these stories, all of these fragments of stories, and there's a mystery around all of it. And so I'm really interested in, you know, slowly sifting through the soil and the dirt and the rocks and the worms and everything that's buried in here and pulling out these little pieces, these little fragments of stories and trying to, you know, recreate what was here. Because really, I mean, Plants Dreamland is a mystery. And, you know, I love to explore and uncover mysteries and try to find, you know, some kind of truth or some kind of, I guess truth about the past. Yeah.
Eric, what would you say the goal of this podcast is?
Well, I would say my goal for the podcast is really just to, like I said, to try to uncover some truth about the past, about what this project was. And also, I think just to honor the show, to honor the artist Plants, to try and, I would say, like, bring some kind of resurgence to his career, because I think that he took a really big hit with this show. I wouldn't say that it tanked his career, because he's coming back and because of this podcast, he's starting to make art again and show it publicly. But, you know, it really took a toll on a lot of different careers. And so I guess one of my goals is to just, kind of bring some redemption to the project, to not let it be the failure that it was, to yeah, bring some life into it, and allow people to see, the beauty and the magic of it, and not just be repulsed by how stupid it was.
That first episode of the podcast was really great, with the actor who played Mr. Plants. How did you track that guy down?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, when I say that I kind of like an archaeologist, that's part of it. Is I just love digging. I love research. I love trying to find, like if there's someone that's hard to track down, I'm like a dog trying to find a bone, or digging up a bone, burying a bone. Like just give me that. I want to find the truth in that. And so, tracking him down actually took a lot of work. It took me, I think 3 weeks. And at first when I did reach out to him, he wanted nothing to do with this project. Like, he made it very clear that he was actually very annoyed that we had contacted him. And then, it took some finessing the situation. Let's just say some per diems were involved, so to speak, just to make it worth his while. But obviously, I think once he got into the studio and saw that we really are, we mean well and are trying to do justice to this project, he softened, and he was actually a really good sport, and gave us a great interview, and also connected us to some people that we've been really wanting to track down, like Kevin. Now we have Kevin's number, and to have him as a guest is just like, I can't believe it. And it looks like that's probably going to happen. We're going to get Kevin, and we'll get Plants, and perhaps even one of the former network executives who was involved in greenlighting the show. So yeah, really grateful to have found him. And, it's just the work that I love to do.
Why do you think people are so unwilling to associate themselves with this project?
That's kind of part of the mystery that we're trying to uncover in this podcast. I don't know, really. One of the mysteries is why does this show seem to repel people or repulse people? Like the actor who played Mr. Plant said it last time. I don't know. There was like something. It was like touching on something biological or something inside of people. Like when they heard that theme song, they were just like not thinking or something, but like some part of them was just like, turn this off. And then they'd like turn the channel or like turn their TV off and just be like, whoa, what was I doing? And then they'd kind of like snap out of their slumber or something. How will we ever explain that? We're not psychologists. We're not therapists. We don't understand that part of the human psyche. But obviously there is something at work. It just seems like almost a no-brainer to say that there is something deeply built into this show that is repulsing certain people. But then, someone like us, we're totally drawn to it. And what is it that is creating that? I guess I would just say that Plans Dreamland seemed to tank a lot of careers. And that's kind of a tragedy because, personally, I think the show is a masterpiece. I don't know why it tanked so many careers, but it seems like it really almost was cursed. And I wonder if anyone could even explain that. It might just be a mystery of life, but this is the work that we're doing. We're hoping to uncover the mystery and to try and find out why, what is it about the show that is doing this? And perhaps we can talk to a psychologist or, someone who can answer that, because it seems like a mystery to me.
Is this podcast connected to the network?
Well, yes and no. The podcast is technically connected to the network, but they've made it fairly clear that they don't want basically anything to do with this project. Oddly enough, even though most people who work at the network now don't actually know what Plants Dreamland is, that term has become almost it's a pejorative. It stands for something really negative now within the network office. So if someone does a terrible job, another person will say like, "Wow, you really Plants Dreamland that." And the funny thing about that is that like people who use that term to describe that, they don't even know what the show is. Like that's how much of a negative reputation this show has. And so, yeah, the network basically wants nothing to do with this show. However, they do own the rights to Plants Dreamland, so they are in some way connected to it. But they've given us essentially free reign to work on this project, which is great. And we're obviously very thankful for that.
What do you think happened to the missing episodes?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's essentially 6 episodes that we have no idea where they are, what they were about. And again, that's part of the mystery that we're trying to uncover. We're trying to explore in this podcast. And, hopefully we'll be able to. Hopefully we'll track some people down who will at least know, what they were. There's no records in the network. No one that we know can remember anything. Our guest last time, the actor who played Mr. Plants, didn't have any memory. So yeah, it's just one of the mysteries. If I had to guess, I would imagine that there's probably a couple copies in someone's attic or in someone's shed or in someone's garage or in someone's basement. And, the challenge of that era of TV is that it was stored on physical media, and physical media breaks down. So who's to know if they A, exist, and B, if they would even be playable? So, fingers crossed. We would love to track down some more episodes, but that's kind of something that is out of our control. And that's, again, part of the beauty of being archaeologists is, maybe we will uncover an episode or 2 or 3 or even 6, but perhaps we won't. And that's part of the mystery and the magic of this whole thing that makes it so interesting.
Why do you think the show got canceled?
I mean, obviously I can't speak for the network. But it seems pretty clear from the people that we've talked to that the show was a failure. We know that it didn't air more than 4 episodes that first season. So I think right off the bat, my guess is that the numbers were so low that they just couldn't justify continuing airing it. And I do know that in the late 90s, they were really looking for this kind of television show. And so the network did actually push this show really, really hard, in 2003 when it aired, in 2002, like in the lead up to it. And they really thought that they had, gotten that kind of MTV crowd, the young, 16 to 23-year-old audience. They really believed that they had that with this show, and they found out very quickly that those people wanted nothing to do with this show. And so, yeah, I think it failed because there was no interest in it.
Do you like the work, the artwork that Plants the artist makes?
Personally, yes, I I love Plance's work. Yeah. I mean, yeah, from everything from the visual art to the video art. I mean, yeah, I'm a really big fan. I'm one of the few people who still believes in this artist. I mean, if we look at this, I mean, these paintings are part of his recent series, Middle Range. And when I look at this painting, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, you know, I'm not an artist. I don't paint. I'm just really just like a podcast producer. But I think this is extraordinary work. I don't think that he would ever say this, but from what I understand, this is kind of an abstracted yin yang, this whole series. It's an exploration of the yin yang, which is, you know, a metaphor or a symbol of life. We've got the light side and the dark side, and then this intense shadow. And of course, there's the light and the dark side of life, and the opposite in each. But then we've got this almost like pencil thin or almost like a tightrope walk that is rambling. It's not just a straight line. It's kind of moving all over like a river. And the way that I see it is almost as someone is traversing this middle range, this middle mountain range through life, through the dark and the light side of life. And I just think, I mean, as a metaphor, it's just so beautiful and so powerful to me. And so when I see this painting, I just feel so alive and so inspired to be alive. And I just think, yeah, I think it's phenomenal art, and it's you know, my favorite. I mean, currently he's my favorite artist, I would say, and I don't have to be ashamed about that. I really believe in his art, and that's part of why, you know, I'm doing this podcast project. Is I want to promote this artist. I want to see him succeed, because I really believe in the art. I mean, not only this art, but just him as a performer too. I mean, like, the fact that he never shows his face, that he doesn't ever give interviews, really. He doesn't speak about what he's making. He just puts it out there and lets you try. I mean, it's an art piece in itself. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Plants, of the artist. Huge fan. Yeah.
Eric, have you ever met Plants?
Yeah. So when we were starting this podcast project, we did a pilot episode that we used to pitch to the network, and Plants was involved in that. I think we've got the episode on our Patreon right now if anyone wants to watch it. So yeah, we spent, you know, an afternoon with Plants. But the thing about Plants is that he won't say anything. Like, he didn't talk to us. Everything was through an interpreter. He had a publicist. He actually had a whole team of people there. And so I didn't get to talk to him really. But just to be in the same room as him was really, really fascinating. Was one of the highlights of my life, I would say, so far. Yeah.
So who are you? Okay. And are you the artist that's responsible for the show? So I'm getting the sense that you don't really like to divulge too much information. Is that true? Okay. So why are you wearing a mask? Are you hiding something? Why do you think that Plants went into hiding?
Well, again, this is speculation, and I think at this point a person kind of has to speculate, because Plants won't say, you know, there's no Wikipedia entry for Plants the artist. There's no interviews about what happened. So it's all speculation. But what I can say is that in the late 90s, Plants was, from what I understand, one of the, well, maybe not one of the biggest, but in the same realm as some of the biggest artists, contemporary artists in the world, or at least in America. And I mean, if I say someone like Harold Toots, everyone knows Harold Toots' name, right? Like, arguably the biggest artists, at least in America, definitely in North America, probably in the world right now. And in the late 90s, he was emerging as one of the biggest. He was showing in the MoMA consistently. And, Plants was in the conversation. Maybe not in the same sentence as Harold Toots, but he would be, maybe a few paragraphs down. And it wasn't just Harold Toots, it was like someone like Haruki Clamshell, out of Japan, or Sarah Flonster, that the famous English painter, Gary Candlewax, Margaret Daffodil. These were names that were some of the biggest artists in the late 90s, and he was with them. His name was in the conversation. He was a contender. And I think that's why he was able to get the show with the network. He was a big deal at the time. I mean, in from like 96 to 2001, he showed at places like Limp in New York, famous contemporary gallery. He showed at White Walls in Los Angeles, which, I mean, like, we all know White Walls. You have to be one of the biggest names to even get your foot in the door there, to even hang a canvas on the wall. He was also at Stone & Co. in London, or the Deconstructed Narcissist in Berlin, or Galleria del Scareggia in Rome. He wasn't just, famous in, one state. He was a contender in the world. And so the fact that he essentially became a nobody overnight is remarkable to me. That someone that was so big could just be forgotten almost overnight. And, again, it's part of why I want to be involved in this project. It's part of why I pitched to the network. It's like, part of the mystery is, how could someone go from so high to so low? And how could almost no one even care? How could no one even want to understand what happened, or even think about him again? And so, yeah, this is part of the mystery. I don't know why he went into hiding, or if he even did go into hiding. Perhaps just no one cared anymore. Perhaps there was something about the show flopping that just caused people to instantly forget his name from their memory. I don't know. But it's part of the mystery that I want to uncover. And I think it really adds to the story that is Plants. It adds to the intrigue and the mystery of, like, oh, right, Plants. Yeah, right, in the late 90s. Oh, right, he was. Yeah, I remember that name. Oh, right, what happened to him? Oh, well, he's still making art. He didn't die. And someone like Harold Toots went almost the opposite way. He became so famous that it almost became unreal. Like to become that famous as an artist is almost unheard of. It's like the Bill Gates of painters, or the Oprah Winfrey of painters. And then Plants is, he can't even get a show at a local gallery anymore because, it's like, Plants who? What are you talking about? No, thank you. So, yeah, it's a mystery, and it's hopefully something that we can resurrect. I mean, I'd love to resurrect this guy's career and bring him back into the spotlight, because, to me, I think this work stands alongside someone like Harold Toots or Margaret Daffodil. Absolutely, like, no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
What do you wish that people understood about Plants the artist?
I don't know if I wish people understood Plants' art. because I think that for a lot of people it's just not for them, and perhaps it's just the time in the world. Some people come and they're just not. It's just not the right timing. Maybe it's just not the right timing for people to understand Plance's work. But I think if really they could, if we could just get him into some big galleries, and people could just be in the same room with these paintings and sit down and just look at them, and just give it some time and really allow it to move something inside of them, or to even watch those old episodes and look past all of the sugarcoating and try to see something deeper in that. I mean, I think that there is such depth in this art that is often, at least in the current age where everything just has to be so blah, 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 it's like capture your attention and blah, it's just so overstimulating. I think this artist is almost like the opposite of that. He's like the telephone landline in the TikTok age. It's slower. It takes time to allow it to percolate, to allow it to move something inside. So I just wish that people were able to slow down and really just be with the art, because I think that it would move them. Yeah.
What do you want people to understand about the show Plants Dreamland?
I mean, personally, I want to understand Plants Dreamland. I want to be able to see all the other episodes so that I can understand it as as an art piece, as a one season. But I wish that people again would just take the time to watch it. I think that for most people they never got past the theme song, and so they would not even know what Plants Dreamland is. I wish that people at the network would actually just watch a couple episodes so that they would understand what they are saying when they use Plants Dreamland as a slur. So yeah, I would just say, just for people to take some time to actually be with the art. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being a guest. I know that you didn't have to do this, and it really helped the podcast out to have someone involved in it explaining why we're doing this. And obviously I didn't want to do it. So thank you so much. And we won't make you answer any more questions.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I did feel a little bit nervous at the beginning, but
yeah, me too.
Once I got into it, I found that I actually felt really excited to talk about this. I mean, it's a project that I really care about. I love this show. I love the artist, and it's just such an honor to be connected to it. And connected to a network that obviously inspired me to even, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the network and some of the shows that I saw on the network. So yeah, it was just such a pleasure to be here, and thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you to everyone who watched, and I hope you'll stick around for the rest of the episodes. We've got some really, really, really phenomenal guests lined up.
Yep.
And it's going to be such a wonderful ride.
Yeah, man, I can't wait.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.